Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the month of March 2023 and the life path forecast for the month ahead. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss when I post. And of course, thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Personal month forecasts, which will include, of course, the moon forecasts, those will be coming sometime next week, I anticipate, so keep your eye out for those. And of course, they are different from the life path forecasts, and they do have different calculations. So be aware of that, and definitely check yours out once they land. Like I said, I expect that to be sometime next week. This, of course, is a general reading. For a personal reading or a coaching with numerology session with me, you can book some time with me. Of course, my information is in the description box below to do that. Okay, so March 2023 is 10-1 energy. So you may have seen some things close out in the month of February. Some things coming to fruition, completion, things falling away, creating a clean slate, right? So March, we have this beautiful clean slate to create whatever it is that we wish to create, to take some big risks, to take some some initiations, to initiate some new things, right? To be somewhat aggressive in that approach and to go after what it is that our hearts desire. This, of course, is going towards those sort of individual goals, those big new starts when it comes to self. The one energy is very much focused on self and identity and going after, again, what it is that we feel called to go after at this moment, and what it is that we feel called to create or initiate, and to do that in a way that, again, we're taking the initiative to do that. One energy forces us to take the initiative to get started on something. And it may look different than what we had anticipated it would look like. And a lot of times with one energy, that's very normal. It can be so outside the box that a lot of people don't understand it, and that's okay. Follow your instincts, follow your intuition, follow your heart at this time, and really take those big risks on the things that really speak to you the most. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the individual life path forecast, taking all this into consideration. Life path number 5. So your animal wisdom comes through with octopus for March. And so what's interesting here is this is sort of like King of Cups energy. This is a very emotionally mature sort of energy that brings calm clarity, control over emotions as opposed to the emotions controlling you type thing. And of course, I know you all know this, but that does not mean, that's nothing to do with suppressing or avoiding our emotions. It's very much being aware of them, moving through them, acknowledging them and transmuting them into something useful, right? Because all emotions have some kind of electrical or energetic charge to them. And so it's what we do with that emotional energy, that charge, that makes the difference, right? So this month you may find that there are some triggers that come up for you, or some situations that sort of encourage you to flex this muscle, right? To find ways to not let your emotions get the best of you, but to find your own calmness from within, and from that calmness, seek clarity or find clarity, right? It's a very wise sort of energy coming through with octopus. There's also this energy of being very self-compassionate, right? So being very self-aware and forgiving yourself for not achieving what you wanted to achieve, or doing what you wanted to do, or acting in a way that you have some level of regret around. Giving yourself compassion and grace, understanding that we are all just human, right? We are doing the best that we can, and that's the best that we can do. When we know better, we do better type thing, right? And sometimes there's just so much going on that we miss the mark, and it's okay, right? So there's very much a lot coming through this month for not only sort of controlling your emotions and having sort of like authority over yourself, right? Like you're over your emotions and your emotional body, but also giving yourself grace when you miss the mark and you lose it, or you say things you don't mean to say, or do things you don't mean to do, right? Like you take responsibility for it. You, again, like acknowledge it, you take accountability, but, and you learn from the experience, but you don't beat yourself up and you don't stay there, right? So there's a lot coming through with Octopus for that. So anybody that this resonates for, there's definitely something coming through here about, again, emotions, having that sort of self-awareness and that sort of control over our emotions, but not beating ourselves up when we, sort of miss the mark and act human, right? Because we are human. So definitely a lot coming through there. So make sure you pay attention to your trigger points. If you need to dive a little bit deeper into what's triggering you, why it's triggering you, how you're reacting to that trigger point, a lot of work can be done there, and a lot can be sort of healed and moved through when we can do that. Now, for you all, for the month of March, you're also working with 15-6 energy. So this can bring about a lot of like indecision, right? So like you may need to be decisive this month over things. But it can kind of feel like some things are a little bit cloudy, especially when you're overly emotional about whatever it is. Like when you're too attached to the outcome, or too attached to the situation, or too immersed in it. It can create cloudiness or like a veil that makes it really hard to be discerning. And so you can kind of feel a little bit indecisive this month. So again, I would say as much as you can, become the observer. Take yourself and remove yourself away from the situation long enough to be able to see it for what it is. That gives you the opportunity to sort of respond as opposed to react. And that can give you that calm clarity that will then allow you to make decisions and be more decisive, so that when you are making those decisions, you're doing so in a way that really serves you and your journey. There's also a lot coming in this month with this 15-6 energy around like the restriction. So it may be that like you really want to break free from a situation and it's felt really overly restrictive. This month may give you the opportunity to break free from it, or at least see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I do think that there's still going to be some level of restriction here. And so again, it's just sort of like understanding that when there is restriction, when we're being held back from something, when the brakes are put on, it's for a higher purpose. Like it's for a reason, right? We're meant to see something, deeper, more clearly before we move forward, or wherever it is that we're headed isn't ready for us yet, right? It's still in preparation mode. And so the brakes have to be put on so that we don't get there before we are supposed to get there, type thing, right? And again, that can be like emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, whatever. So if it feels like the brakes are being put on, just move with it, accept it for what it is. Don't get overly frustrated, or try not to get overly frustrated with it. If the brakes are being put on, that means that you've done everything that you can do with that situation. So again, step back, release control, surrender, and let things move the way that they need to move. When it's your time to pick things back up and reassert yourself or show up in a certain way, you'll know, right? You'll be put in that position, or that opportunity will present itself. So just try to move with it as much as you can. I know it can be frustrating, but there definitely will probably be this, especially under a one umbrella, we're under this one universal energy. There can definitely be this energy of like wanting to break free, wanting like freedom of expression, freedom of creativity, freedom of space, whatever. You might be in a relationship and want freedom from that relationship. And maybe that is an indicator or showing you where it is that maybe you need some space, where it is maybe you need to take some alone time. It doesn't mean that you need to cut that relationship off or, throw it out the window. It just means that wherever that frustration surfaces, there's something deeper there that needs to be addressed. This is also a month that you are going to be encouraged to, even through the trials and the tribulations, find your joy. Do the things that make you happy, that bring you that sense of freedom, that bring you that sense of joy, even if your circumstances don't change. You can still find that joy, that freedom through some kind of activity or through some kind of hobby or expression that will sort of satiate that need or that desire. So this is definitely a month for not taking things so seriously. And, your life path energy is 5. So these themes that I'm talking about, are already such a big part of your journey. So you may just see them intensified this month, right? And one thing for a 5, anytime we face sort of restriction, it can be very daunting. It can be very frustrating. Because 5s are the freedom seekers. They want that freedom, right? They might default back to a more restrictive scenario or experience because that sometimes can feel safer for a 5 before they step into their life path. But I would just say a lot of the themes that you might be working with this month are really themes of your life path. So you might just, again, see those sort of intensified. And I would also say, because you're working with 6 energy this month, there could be a lot that comes up around like the need for discernment, like recognizing when somebody might be overstepping a boundary or using you for their own gain without reciprocation or without taking your needs into consideration. And so there might be some boundaries that need to be put in place. Definitely do that. Definitely use your discernment about, does it feel like this person has my best interest at heart or does it not? And if it doesn't, is this somebody I really want to move forward with? Probably not, right? So those kind of scenarios can come into play this month for sure. So just pay attention to that. And again, just try to be the observer as much as possible. So I hope it's a beautiful month for you all. Take care, 5s. Bye for now.